welcome into Coach's Corner. It is June 14th. It is a Wednesday. And I am here with another pre-recorded episode of Quarterback Tiers. That's right. It's been a while since I've done a quarterback tier list, I believe, on Coach's Corner. And now that we're, I think, kind of into the summer of the NFL, we're kind of like, the summer portion is basically just we're getting ready for training camp. We're getting ready for that turn of the season, preseason right around the corner. We're not there yet, but we're on our way there. And I think it's time to tier some quarterbacks. I think it is, the appropriate time, I believe. I got to add on our last tier here. I believe it's been an appropriate amount of time. We have pretty good evidence on what the quarterbacks, who's going to be where. I don't think there's anyone, there's not a Lamar Jackson situation anymore, obviously. Aaron Rodgers situation, we don't have that. So for that reason, I think it's time to kick it off with a very expansive tier. I found it here on tiermaker.com, as always, one of our great friends that we use constantly here at Coach's Corner. And it has everyone, I would say, that has like a chance to start in the NFL this year, I believe. And outside of practice squad guys that have to come in out of nowhere, I think it's pretty expansive, and I think it actually works out pretty well. So starting us off here, I feel like we are going to go from S. I should explain the tiers for the podcast listener, of course. S, A, B, C, Unproven, D, and Hell. As always, have to have that tier just for because. And I think I'm going to get started here with S tier. I feel like there's really one guy that I can point to that has to be on the list, has to be at S tier. And we'll see if I move anyone else in this tier. But Patrick Mahomes is in S tier for good reason. And I think it's because the gap between him and other quarterbacks is just so severe to a degree where, Patrick Mahomes rarely makes mistakes. And when he does, it's not like he puts his head down and it's like it's a bad game, we're done here. You're still going to have a chance to win the game. It's not like, you're totally toast for the time being, you're just done. No, you have Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be all right. You have a chance to win any game. MVP now, reigning MVP. And it's just the consistency that I think you get from him week in, week out. And it's like the level of play. It's like, you're getting the floor of Patrick Mahomes is, I think, B tier at worst. And I'm not sure there's many quarterbacks that output in the A tier or B tier that their floor is B tier. I think it's, most of them will go down to these lower levels. Patrick Mahomes, I don't think really falls down there. I can't think of a game where Patrick Mahomes was solely the reason why they lost. I'm sure I'm forgetting some games that he might have had in the playoffs, here and there, maybe against the Bengals a couple of years ago. But, it's just Patrick Mahomes is the guy. He's the league face, I think, for the next decade plus. It's so hard to move him out of there. And so until I can, make this list and kind of figure out who's going to be, who could maybe join him in S, I'm just going to have him in S alone. So now I'm going to just go through the list here. I feel like I had to do that one just to start us off. Josh Allen, I'm going to put in A tier. Obviously, I think his talent is off the levels too. I think he has, S potential, for most games, but just the decision-making and, hero ball that he tends to play sometimes just makes him less consistent. Now, like I said, he's still an upper-tier quarterback. His arm is terrific. He has a chemistry with Stephon Diggs that's unmatched. But for right now, I think him in A tier is more than fair. Then Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, I'm going to put into D tier. And I really struggled to make him not belong in hell right now just because I think Baker Mayfield is a guy where I don't know. You know what? I'm going to put him down in hell tier. It's one of those guys, where Baker Mayfield's had a couple favorable situations and hasn't really done anything outside of the one playoff year. It went super downhill in Cleveland quickly on him and Kevin Stefanski's relationship. Went to Carolina, was awful, really. Nothing really ever came from that. And then he went to LA and he had one good game, and then other than that, they decided not to bring him back. Now he's going to go, he's in Tampa Bay right now, competing to be the starter, but I mean, two trash cans competing against each other doesn't sound like anything special. And you know what? I'm going to put his teammate in there with him, Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask is not an NFL quarterback. I just can't imagine it. If he comes out this year and starts and like ends up winning games, I'll be shocked. I will be very shocked that happens. But still, Kyle Trask, I don't know if you're good, man. I really don't think you are. But then Joe Burrow. I'm going to put him in A tier. And I think this is maybe one of my, I don't want to say crazier takes, but an interesting take is I think Joe Burrow is the best pure quarterback in the league. And that just means, I think, from a pocket standpoint, like taking out of the ability to run, him in the pocket, his decision making, his presence that he has for rushers that are coming at him, like his accuracy is all over, pretty damn close to being good, all like perfect all over the place. His arm isn't the biggest, but like I say, he makes up for that by having fantastic receivers that he also throws open. Can hit him in the chest. He's really talented to me, and I think he's an A tier. Next is Derek Carr. Derek Carr I'm going to put into C tier, and C tier basically is, I think he's a starter level guy. I think he has potential to move up, but his ability to move down is very well known as well. And I think Derek Carr is the perfect C tier guy where you can win games with him in a good system, but he will also lose you games in a good system. It's not always, butterflies and rainbows with Derek Carr, but it could also be a lot worse. Next is Matt Corral. Many people wouldn't know this because Matt Corral's not a face that you would recognize because he hasn't played a game. So for that reason, I think him and Unproven is more than fair. He has never played an NFL game, so he gets stuck in there. Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, I'm gonna put in B tier, but he's 1 year away, like another bad year from being in C tier, and it's one of those I have faith in Dak. I do. I think he is a good quarterback. Like I don't have any things against him. I think he's a good passer. He's an okay runner, but his decision making towards the end of last season just went down really quickly, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was. I just don't know what he was thinking on several plays, especially like the interceptions he had in the 49ers game. It's just boneheaded plays that he hasn't made a lot in his career, but he just had the urge to make them last season. I don't know. Andy Dalton. I'm going to put into hell. Unfortunately, the Red Ranger. Woof, almost said a bad thing. Andy Dalton is going into the fiery depths for his quarterback play because he's not good. Andy Dalton is not a good quarterback. He was passable with the Saints last year. I don't know how he held on to that job. I really don't. He's just fine. I just don't see the upside that you would have with Andy Dalton as your quarterback, and I don't see why you would want him starting games. As a backup, he's good, but I can't have him as more than that. Sam Darnold, I'm going to put into hell as well. And I like Sam Darnold. I think he has potential, but I don't think we've ever seen it really work. And in Carolina, he won some games down the stretch, but it wasn't because of Sam Darnold. It was because they ran the ball and played great defense. Sam Darnold was just there. He just existed, and that's fine. Like, he's in San Francisco now, maybe gets another chance, but, just from what we've seen from him, I can't put him any higher than the bottom tier of quarterbacks. Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is an interesting case, and I'm going to put him in C tier. And Daniel Jones, I think you could argue for B tier. I think C tier is as low as I'm going to go on him, and I think it's about the level that he's at. I think he's one more really good year away, like a really solid year from being a B tier quarterback. But right now, as a passer, I just don't know if I can trust him enough, to make decisions to push the ball downfield. I don't think we've seen, the best weapons for him to, utilize that part of his game. But I mean, as a runner, he's obviously up there. I think as a runner, he gets brownie points, but as a passer, I can't trust him. Justin Fields. Justin Fields is another guy I'm going to put in C tier because we haven't seen him as a passer. Now, as an athlete, as a dynamic quarterback, like a dynamic player, I think we've seen that on film on time and time again with him running the ball. He was terrific as a runner last year, and you would see the glimpses from the passing game. But once again, similar to his counterpart in Daniel Jones, he didn't have weapons that really he could utilize and trust that well. So he gets DJ Moore this year after they traded for him with the first pick. They sold and got a haul. DJ Moore's in that deal, so that should be a big help for him to develop as a passer and, like Daniel Jones, move up to B tier or A tier. But right now, as a quarterback, I have to put him in C tier, just because of where he's at in his development. Geno Smith, oddly enough, I'm going to put him in B tier. Geno Smith was a fantastic story last year. Kind of, I won't say came onto the scene because he's been around for 10 plus years, but Geno Smith was terrific last year. Really showed his talent, I think, with quality weapons and Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. Led his team to the playoffs in a year that many people thought he would rebuild. Now, I don't know if he can maximize the talent to make them win a playoff game, but, I mean, I think he definitely showed last year that he can lead a winning team. And although they faltered down the stretch, he got them into a point where they could compete with the 49ers in that playoff game. I mean, for a decent amount and before the 49ers pulled away, but Geno Smith impressed me, and I think he deserves B tier. And Jared Goff, I can say the same thing for Jared Goff, where I think the expectations were low for him and the Lions. But his offense was one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league, for a certain period of time, and Jared Goff was a big part of that. They were a game away. They were, a game away against Seattle, or not. I guess they were a game away against Seattle, but they were right on the edge of the playoffs, just as close as Seattle was, and it came down to very last minute stuff that the Lions got knocked out of the playoffs and the Seahawks got in. But Jared Goff was a very key figure in the Lions revolution and looks to be again this year. So, he deserves to be a B tier quarterback, Jared Goff. Taylor Heinicke, I'm going to put Taylor Heinicke in D tier. I think he's shown just enough to be, he's not a starter. He's the backup in Atlanta right now, and I don't think he is a starter for the foreseeable future. I like Taylor Heinicke. I think he gives you a chance to win, but he can aggressively take you out of games. I don't think he has any truly impressive accuracy or arm strength, but I think he's done enough in his career to warrant being a high level backup or a low end starter, and I think D tier is a good spot for him. Justin Herbert I think deserves to be an A tier quarterback. I think his skill set is similar to Josh Allen's. I think he just throws less interceptions and takes less risks because I think he dumps the ball off to his running back more. But I really like Justin Herbert, and I think he'll have a big year, potentially an MVP candidate. I think if the Chargers can win some games, that's a big if. But Kellen Moore coming in to be their offensive coordinator, he helped Dak out. I think reach a different level as a passer, and so I think Justin Herbert maybe doesn't, unlock a new part of his game, but maybe is utilized better. So, then Hendon Hooker, he's a rookie, obviously, so unproven. And won't see him in the league probably this year. Towards ACL last year in college at Tennessee, and he's behind Jared Goff, who I have in B tier. Sam Howell plays for the Commanders, so North Carolina quarterback, came in last year as a rookie in the last week, so kind of a hard guy to judge, and I I can't really judge him. I mean, frankly, I just think he is fine. We'll see. We'll see how he plays this year because they really didn't sign anyone else to replace him. So Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, I'm going to put into A tier, and Jalen Hurts, I don't know if he is an A tier quarterback like as a passer, but as like the overall package, I think he's good enough as a passer along with his running to warrant an A tier ranking. He was the MVP of the league until he got hurt and Patrick Mahomes passed him. But yeah, Jalen Hurts at A tier. I think that is a fair ranking for right now. Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is such a weird quarterback. I'm going to put Jimmy Garoppolo into C tier. He's a low C tier kind of guy. I don't think there's like anyone that would be. You know what? No, I'm going to put him in D tier. I tried to talk myself into Jimmy Garoppolo, but I can't. I think he's a fine quarterback. You're not expecting him to make any game-changing plays. You're not expecting him to wow you with any throws or his athleticism. He comes in and does his job well for a system. And the system was really, really special in San Francisco, so I think that's part of why they won some games. But if you put Jimmy Garoppolo on the Texans, I don't know if they win many more games than they did last year. So Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, is a D-tier quarterback. Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a B-tier quarterback. I think he's perfectly B. I think Kirk Cousins is the face of B. If I could put Kirk Cousins in like just as the face of this tier and replace the letter B, I would. But Kirk Cousins is everything that you need in a B-tier quarterback. He does make good throws. He is fairly accurate. Can't run really, not a playmaker with his leg, like with any like pocket movement or anything. But he can distribute the ball effectively and can lead your team to the playoffs. Can he win you a playoff game? That's to be determined. And I think that's really what breaks down B from A is like good quarterbacks to great quarterbacks, but can they win you a playoff game when you need them to? And I don't think the B-tier quarterbacks can necessarily be the sole reason why you win a game. Where I think A-tier, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Herbert are all guys who can win you playoff games on their own. Now, that doesn't mean they don't need help. They definitely do if they want to make deep playoff runs. But if you're in the wild card round against the Raiders, who have a great defense and a so-so offense, if you can't outscore or can't score on that Raiders defense and you can't get past the wild card round, then I think that you don't really belong in A tier. And it's not even like none of these guys have been in that scenario. That's just a made-up scenario. But like, you have to win the wild card game, and I know Justin Herbert hasn't yet, but I think he has that potential, and he is in his fourth year now. So Justin Herbert is that guy. Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is such a weird case for a quarterback. I do think he is a B-tier quarterback. Talent-wise, off the charts. As a runner, off the charts. As a passer, off the charts. So one of the more aesthetically pleasing players, I think, to watch when everything's going right. Everything just really hasn't gone right that much for him. In Arizona last year especially, I think he made a lot of decisions that weren't great for his team winning games last year. I think, decision-making was poor. I think his just accuracy was a touch bit off. But you can also, chalk that up to Cliff Kingsbury isn't a great coach and wasn't scheming up the best offense. But, I think there's a certain level that Kyler Murray can unlock as he's rehabbing, I think mentally there's another element of Kyler Murray. Now, will he ever get there? Who knows? Because everyone makes a big deal of him playing video games, but he's still super uber talented, and I think he does deserve to be up here with these guys. It's just we expect more. We want more from Kyler. We want him to be up here. It's just we haven't had that yet. I could say a lot of the same things about Lamar Jackson. I think he's a worse passer, honestly, than Kyler Murray. But as a runner, he's the best runner in the NFL. I mean, just straight up, he is. I think he has A-tier potential. Obviously, I think that's evident of his MVP season. And this season, I think he could really unlock that because I think they did something this offseason where the flip kind of switched for the Ravens as an organization to really kind of take Lamar seriously, I believe. Now they got him the extension, they got him receivers, they hired Todd Monken, who's more of a passer, than a running specific guy. And I'm really curious to watch the Ravens play this year. Next is Willie Levis. Will Levis from Kentucky. He's a rookie. He probably won't play for the Titans this year because the Titans think they can compete, but yeah, no. You're sitting there and unproven Will Levis, but who knows? Another player that I think is pretty fairly unproven is Jordan Love. And, Jordan Love, I think, has potential. I liked him coming out of college at Utah State. I think he was a decent mobile guy. I think he needed to sit, and he did that very well in Green Bay behind Aaron Rodgers. And it'll be very intriguing to see him if he develops or not. We'll see. I'm in a big we'll see with Jordan Love because I think he's the biggest wild card out of any guy like that could play this year. I don't obviously rookies playing is kind of an unproven territory anyways, and they're wild cards in their own right. But Jordan Love has played a couple games and the results haven't been bad. They haven't been great, but they haven't been bad. So I could see him realistically being a C-tier quarterback this year, but right now unproven. Mac Jones, I'm going to put into the lower part of C-tier. I think you know what you're getting with Mac Jones. I think it's very clear where he stands as a player, as a passer. I can make the argument for D tier, honestly, based off of his play last year, but I think he's entering his third season. It's hard for me to really make a whole lot of judgments. I talked about him in LK League Notes, regarding him and his team situation. A big sink or swim year for Mac Jones. It really is. A lot of things can go right for him, and he can really continue his career in New England, or I think he's either, cut or traded if he plays poorly next year. We'll see. Matt Ryan, if you know me, if you know this show, I have the softest spot in my heart for Matt Ryan, but I cannot put him into C tier. Right now, he is a D tier quarterback because I don't know if he can move. I don't know if he'll play this year. I don't know if he's going to retire. I think he hasn't officially announced anything, but he's joined CBS as an analyst. It feels like the gears are turning towards him retiring. But I think he's keeping the door open enough to where if a team, quarterback gets hurt, he'll play. But I think if no one calls in training camp or anything, I think there's a good chance he will retire shortly before the season. But we'll see. Davis Mills. We haven't had a guy here going here for a while. Davis Mills, you're going to hell, buddy. Davis Mills is one of those guys you want to see him succeed because you see certain things. As he's grown up through his college, high school rankings, you've seen the tools there, but gosh, the NFL is just not a place for Davis Mills. Kenny Pickett, I'm going to put into C tier. And Kenny Pickett, I was kind of a doubter a little bit just because I didn't know how ready he was to take on the mantle as a starter. But he did take it from Mitch Trubisky when he got hurt, and Kenny Pickett really didn't let up. I mean, he got banged up himself, and that, I think, limited him. But the end of last year, I think, was terrific for his progress, his growth as a starter, as a leader. I'm high on the Steelers this year. I really am. I think they'll be a good team, and I think he's going to be a big part of them winning if they do end up winning games. Obviously, I think Kenny Pickett's elevation and play will be the storyline there. Next, I have Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was filled in for Jimmy Garoppolo when he got hurt and played just as good as Jimmy, if not better. I think, obviously, him being younger him being able to move somewhat, fit very well in the Shanahan system. I think he is a good quarterback. I think he deserves to be in C tier. I think C tier is a good spot, as he can play in a system very well. I don't know if he like the system elevates him probably to B tier. But if Brock Purdy hurts himself, then he's probably down in D tier. It's pretty plain cut with Purdy, and I think the thing is he also majority stayed at B tier, and that's why they won so many games with him last year. But if he regressed down to D tier this season, I wouldn't be shocked. But next is Anthony Richardson, another rookie, plays for the Colts. Probably gonna be the starter. I think people like him enough to where they'll give him benefit of doubt. Like they'll probably start him day one. If Gardner Minshew is there, but come on. Desmond Ritter. Desmond Ritter has to go unproven because although he played 4 games down the stretch last year, I think they were against the Buccaneers, who had basically rested all their starters in the second half. The Cardinals, who were actively losing out of their mind. Then a Ravens team that didn't have Lamar Jackson, and a Saints team that was employing Andy Dalton at quarterback. Now, I think he showed strides and improvements through each of those games, which is obviously, room for growth is always welcomed. But it's one of those. It's one of those I can't take those 4 games and say he's a D tier quarterback right now. I just can't. Real quick, I'll just throw C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. I'll throw Trey Lance in there. All of these 3 guys, 2 rookies, C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. Trey Lance is essentially a rookie. He's played 2 games. He got hurt last year with an ankle injury. Don't know if we'll see him this year, but we're just waiting. we're just waiting to see Trey Lance. We just haven't, but maybe one day. Ryan Tannehill, I'm going to put into D tier. I think Ryan Tannehill's days are numbered in Tennessee. They were pretty active about trying to get rid of him already. Obviously, I don't think anyone wants that money unless someone gets hurt. I think Ryan Tannehill will remain in Tennessee, or he'll be cut. And we'll see if they do that this offseason, or if they do it, Will Levis will be ready at some point. I don't know, but the clock is ticking on Ryan Tannehill's career in the NFL. Zach Wilson going to hell immediately. The bottom, just not a good quarterback. Never really figured it out. Was just bad. This was just flat out bad. Lost to the Jets several games. The Thursday night game they played last year, I don't know Jacksonville, I think was who it was against, but that was one of the all-time awful games I've ever seen from a quarterback. Joining him, I'll put Carson Wentz in there as well. Carson Wentz, he'll never reach that guy that he was when he almost won the MVP in 2017. I'm sorry, Carson Wentz truthers, if there are any left. I don't think there are, but that guy does not know how to play football properly. Matthew Stafford, I'm trying to save some of these guys I'm confused about for last. Matthew Stafford, I think, is a B tier quarterback. I almost put him in C tier, but I'm going to put him in B tier just because he was hurt last year. I really do think he was hurt. I think he had some offseason surgery after winning the Super Bowl that I don't know if it fully recovered. I don't know if it was just cleaned up some stuff that never healed properly, but I think him basically taking off the rest of last year after they lost some games was good for him. For his age, he's getting up there, and he is injury prone. But I think he can still win you games. I think he's still a guy that you plug in and you're happy with him as your starter. Tua, I'm going to put in C tier. Just he's kind of a similar way of Matthew Stafford, where he's hurt and you don't know what you're going to get. But when he does play, it's a B tier guy. When he is bad, he's a D tier guy. He's similar to Brock Purdy, but he's much more renowned as a prospect. Obviously, he was the 5th pick. He has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but I think C tier is where he is right now as a passer. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, I think, at this point in his career is a B tier quarterback. And I know it looks like B tier is really loaded right now, but I do think there are a number of just good quarterbacks, not great. Like, I think a lot of these teams below, like the Packers, I think would take any of these guys in B tier. I think the Commanders would love to have anyone in B tier. Teams would take these guys, and so it looks like a lot of players, but there are a lot of those type of guys, and so Aaron Rodgers, I think he's in B tier as of right now. Obviously, I don't think last year went well for him in this team, and I don't think it was all on the Packers, like coaching or their players or anything like that. I think Aaron Rodgers is just as much to blame as Matt LaFleur, their lack of weapons. He wasn't as good as he can be. I mean, frankly, that's Aaron Rodgers has a standard, and he didn't meet it. He was good. He was a B tier quarterback, but he wasn't the guy we know. Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, many people would probably make the jump for Trevor Lawrence to put him in A tier. I'm not one of those guys right now. I cannot, in all good conscience, put him above, these guys. Despite him winning a playoff game over Justin Herbert, I can't put him above these guys just yet because he had a good end of the season, and now he has, Calvin Ridley coming in to help that receiver room, which was already pretty good. And I think right now he is a B tier guy that has great potential to move up to A tier this season, but we got to see it. Heading into this season is what the criteria is for this list. Then Deshaun Watson belongs in probably real life hell if you know anything about Deshaun Watson's past. But as a quarterback, I'm going to put him in C tier. And he's one of those guys, he played at A tier level when he was on the Texans. But since being traded, obviously he was suspended. And then once he came back, he was not good. He was not better than anyone in B tier last season. Matthew Stafford maybe because he was hurt, but Deshaun Watson, for his level of play, was not good. And so being a C-tier guy right now, he has to work his way back up. He has to figure out how to play football again because he hasn't, frankly, over the past 3-4 years, he hasn't played a ton of football. But I think this offseason will help him, and maybe we'll see him get back to his level of play. Then Russell Wilson, one of the worst seasons I've ever seen from a quarterback that was getting hyped as maybe they were a Super Bowl contender. Russell Wilson does not belong anywhere near the B tier, as he was also, like Deshaun Watson, worse than every single quarterback here. Flat out lost his team games because his offense couldn't score points. And they have good receivers. They had a pretty good O-line. Not a good O-line, but they had a passable O-line, a good running game until Javonte Williams went down in week 2. Melvin Gordon was fine. There were ways that Russell Wilson just flat out failed the Denver Broncos on offense because of his play. And for that reason, he's in C tier. And if he has another year like that, he moves quickly down to D tier with his fellow draft classmate, Ryan Tannehill. But, as of right now, him in C tier feels fair just because, he does not deserve to be in B tier. But this is the tier. This is all the quarterbacks that I think have a chance to start. Obviously, this tier was put together, so we have some good unproven guys that I think we'll figure out quickly. Desmond Ridder will see big time. Jordan Love will see big time. Sam Howell will see big time. And then obviously the rookies we'll see. And then Trey Lance. God knows what will happen to Trey Lance. I just want to see him play. I really do. But this is our tier. One quick go through it again. Patrick Mahomes S tier, league of his own. A tier, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert. B tier, Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Dak, Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, Jared Goff, and Matt Stafford. C tier, we have the nasty man Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones, Tua, Brock Purdy, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, Kenny Pickett, Mac Jones. D tier, we have Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Taylor Heineke. Unproven, I listed those guys out already. Pay attention. And then Hell tier, we have Davis Mills, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz, Andy Dalton, Kyle Trask, and Zach Wilson. Real quick, I noticed we have basically the redhead ginger squad in hell. I didn't make that. That was not a decision I made. That was just how the tier played out. I'm sorry to the redheads. You guys have souls, I promise. But until next time, I am your host, Lucas Kochevar. As always, make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all the good things. And I will see you guys next week.